Thor, thanks for the update. Time to talk politics down south. Eric Merkley is back from the poli-sci department over at UBC. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a dizzying last 10 days of politics, bombshell revelations with President Donald Trump. What has surprised you with what we've seen and the allegations of interference with Russia and America?
Well, nothing has really surprised me except perhaps the gravity and scope. Only in a few days, just one revelation after another. First, you have the firing of Comey, then his, boasting that, well, it was because of the Trump probe, despite, protestations from his staff that it wasn't. Then you have leaking classified information to the Russians. Just one thing after another, compounding it. And then now there's this Comey memo that's out there that seems to suggest that he implied that the investigation should be halted, which could be obstruction of justice. It's all a lot to take in, and it's only happened in the last short few days.
Well, the appointing of special counsel Robert Mueller, former head of the FBI, now involved in this mix. What happens in a case like this? One, how long does the investigation take, and what happens if there's clear evidence of wrongdoing when it comes to interference with the 2016 election campaign?
Well, it'll take some time. It'll take at least till 2018 before we see any fruit from this investigation. So we've got some time. If something really bad happened and there is some clear linkage between Trump and election interference, it is theoretically possible that we could have an impeachment process on our hands, but it is very unlikely. Impeachment is ultimately a political process, not a legal process. It requires the House of Representatives to pass articles of impeachment and 2/3 support in the Senate, which is hard. Basically, you need to get Republicans to agree with Democrats. It is very, very hard to clear that bar. Unless something really bad comes out, I have trouble seeing it happen.
Impeachment is a buzzword I've heard being thrown out, especially over the last 10 days, given what's happened. But how is this Trump administration, in terms of controversy, different from what we've seen in the past, whether it be the Nixon administration or the Clinton administration?
Well, it's incredible, really. I don't know of a presidency that's been racked with this much controversy so frequently in this short span of a time. There's a reason why Trump, at this stage of his presidency, is the least popular president in modern U.S. history. But there are differences between the Nixon and the Clinton cases in this one. In the case of Clinton, the impeachment process was begun because Republicans controlled Congress. It was not successful because they were not able to get 2/3 support in the Senate. In the case of Nixon, impeachment actually wasn't proceeded. He resigned before it was passed in the House. But the difference there is Democrats controlled Congress, and moderate Republicans were talking like they were going to vote to impeach. So it would have cleared those bars. The difference today is that Republicans control Congress, and there are no moderate Republicans to speak of that, at least as things currently stand, will likely vote to impeach right now. So
how intense is the pressure to step down on the part of the Republicans for President Donald Trump, given what's happening?
Right now, it's not. It has to be intense among core supporters of his in order for anything to bear fruit. And right now, you have 1 or 2 Republicans in Congress that have whispered, impeachment and Watergate, but they haven't said that they would vote for it, and they're the only 2, like John McCain and Justin Amash in the House of Representatives. They need way more Republicans to break ranks in order for impeachment to have any prospect of success. Impeachment is fantasyland thinking. It's much like me thinking that I'm going to get a job with a PhD in political science. It's not going to happen, so let's move on to other things, like Congress's legislative agenda, and start talking about the issues.
And how does, overall, as we wrap this up, President Trump rebound from something like this? Can he, given what's already taken place?
I honestly don't know how he could rebound from it without him exercising some degree of message discipline. He needs to move on to a legislative agenda. Now, that legislative agenda thus far has been a dumpster fire on its own. The American Health Care Act is deeply unpopular, but it's better than what this is. So he needs to move on with the legislative agenda and focus the messaging on that. Other than that, I don't really see how he can turn things around, especially with, ultimately, the problem is him. He's throwing his staff under the bus, but he is just fundamentally incompetent. He is unable to stick to a message, and without that changing, his popularity is not going to rebound.
Well, we're going to see what unfolds with this investigation with Robert Mueller, and we'll definitely bring you back in as more details come underway. Eric, thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me.
Great to have you on the show.